All yours, Shubhashish. You start introduction. You're
Yep.
the
Go ahead.
Okay.
Real life.
Hi everyone. So this is the provisional meta team, and we are meeting today for the first time. So the meta team, the provisional meta team was formed. Hi everyone. So this is the provisional meta team, and
I think somebody needs to turn off the speaker, especially on the streaming side.
yes, I made that mistake. Anyway, so the provisional meta team was formed to help the community to restructure, and it was formed around May, and there was the Pune meetup, so everyone gathered, and there was a lot of enthusiasm. Over time, that kind of died, and now we're trying to restart the entire process for restructuring. So yeah, so I mean, everybody will introduce themselves and then share, all the members will share their experience over the last 6 months, and if they have any specific learning from the entire process, anything that they want to propose.
Deb, you want to go ahead?
All right. Hi everyone. Deb here, one of the members of Provisional Meta team. Uh, the thing is, the reason we started the restructured process is because we were growing at a very fast pace, and the structure that we had before were not actually that wasn't scaling according to that level. So in that case, we had to create something that allows that fast pace. Everybody like an autonomous structure that allows everybody to do what they want to do, at the same time have that guideline, sort of like father figure sort of things, that allows them to make mistakes and then learn from it and then not make mistakes in the second time. So that's partially the task of the meta team. And the reason we went ahead with these kind of functional sort of teams, and not position based structure, is because this is supposed to be the people are supposed to come and go, because this is mostly all volunteer positions, and people will come and go, but the task of those teams will stay. And this is what actually allows people to come forward, bring their new ideas, and be part of that thing. It's not that this professional meta team is not locked in between all those people. New people are supposed to come, old people are supposed to go when they don't like, when they are not feeling like it, and all those things are okay. One thing that I figured out, in the realization part, I have blogged about it on Mozilla India blog. When people ask for autonomy, people ask for freedom, but when given that complete freedom, sometimes we don't know what to do with it. So my suggestion is, go nuts, try out something new, do all those things you wanted to do. And if you're making any mistakes, somebody will come to you, tell you that, okay, let's do it in a bit different way. You have to keep your eyes and ears open and take those suggestions and make things better. That's probably like at the core of everything. That's what we're trying to do probably. um, Now we have many more members. The explanation will differ slightly for our, the realization will differ slightly for everybody else. I'll let them to take the pace up.
Okay. This is Kaustav. I hope you can hear me. Yes, you can. Okay. So I'll part introduce both Akshay and myself. We joined late in the party. So before the meetup, the main meetup, which happened sometime in what? August? Yeah. There was a planning meetup where they created a structure group whose work was to come up with a structure proposal for the restructuring of the community, and it was meant to be inclusive from the ground up. So what was done was there were two more slots left in that group for people to join in later on, depending on how the conversations went. So Akshay and I joined at that stage. So by the time we joined, we had 10 proposals from different people, a lot of comments, and what we did was take those things piece by piece, and we had very short time, under 2 or 3 days, to come up with an initial version of the proposal, which we discussed during the meetup and had some refinements. And as part of the meetup, we also focused on some action items that we would take up going ahead. And one of those action items was to help form a meta team whose function would be more like an enabler to the rest of the community, to help other teams if they are stuck, but more to ensure that there is a kind of synthesis to everything that happens in the community. Now, one of the reasons that we are meeting here today is we did not manage to stick to the timeline that we had set for ourselves, which was end of October. So what during the conversations with Shubhashish over the last week or so, what we decided was that it's probably a good idea to attempt to do that again, and maybe approach it differently depending on all the feedback we have gathered since the meetup. So that is what I hope will be starting on from here. So off to anyone who wants to take. You want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Vanisha, and I was part of the planning meetup, and I have been, associated with this group since the first day. And like when we started this group, we had this thing in our head that we are gonna make sure that the primary so since I was a new member to the community, and I had been given an opportunity to share my perspectives, like how do I see the community as, and that is how, like, this was like a very mix of people. This group was mix of people, like we were, Pratmesh and I were like the young and the new people in the community, and Vinil and Dave, who have been the who have been in this community since the start of Mozilla India. So it was like initially when we started this, it was the overall purpose was to make sure that there is openness in the community, and everyone knows that what is going on with the restructure group, how are we planning out things, how the sessions would go on in the main meetup. And this is how we started, and then we had a very I mean, we had a process in place wherein we had two slots, and we had made it. We didn't tell anyone that this process of selection of two people would be through the conversations, or on the based on the comments, and how much the people are active on the proposal, how much they are like they're participating. So we since this process was quite not told to anyone, so we made sure that we get the right set of people who are actually genuinely interested in like contributing and participating in this restructure thing. So after this process, we decided to actually take help of Akshay Dinesh and Kaustav. And then since then we have been working out together on this, and I think Subhashish would be able to help us with the current restructure and to how to kick this off. So yeah.
Akshay, your turn.
Okay, so like Kausar said, me and Kausar joined uh, the team, and we had made the proposal. And what we had thought was people would be jumping up and down to form teams, focus teams, functional teams, to start working on things they like. And there would be a lot of activities after the meetup. But what had happened was, in fact, the exact opposite. People were waiting for a meta team to do something. People were waiting for teams to start working, instead of the restructure kicking off activities in all direction. It actually stopped activities in all direction. And that doesn't mean that nothing is happening as far as Mozillans in India are concerned, because in many geographical groups, like say Mozilla Tamil Nadu, a lot of people are working very actively. So what's happening is, for some reason, the restructure made Mozilla India pose and all the other geographical sub communities work more actively. So somehow if we could bring that activity into Mozilla India, it would be really nice in the future. uh, Another thing is people are still confused about the role of the role of meta team or professional meta team, and they're probably new to the idea of taking leadership on their own, including me. I should say I am not actually convinced that I should step my foot down and tell people you should do this, you should do that. It kind of feels awkward to be directing people towards any direction, because you know uh, no to be specific, I feel there's a lacuna in Mozilla India where someone can become a leader. Actually, that leader is not there to guide people, say, okay, this is how this is going to happen in the future, or this is what is needed for our community. So some kind of that kind of a message, a strong message, is lacking, and probably because of that, people are finding it difficult to do anything concrete. Yeah, those are my experience from the last 6 months.
I would like to add some points here. It has about 3 parts. I have to remember to come to each of the parts. So first thing first, the grassroots level, like the events and all the smaller activities, that is kind of going on at the same pace. Like that did not get affected. Which part got affected is where a promotional activity or a campaign that needed somebody to take the first step. Wherever somebody needed to take a first step, people are like tremendously afraid or have the cold feet to not take the first step. Somebody else will, then I will get in. That's the kind of mentality. But if we are like, that was the conscious choice that we had made in this structure, that if we are to foster leadership, we have to create a system where you can easily identify the people who are stepping up. And if unless you have something like this, it would never be obvious. One thing, that one point that Akshay mentioned, is that directing people who should do what. I don't think that is at the core. Like if that is being represented, or that is being how is it being translated, then probably we need to do better job at translating it again, like phrasing it again. It was meant to be, hello guys, I'm doing this. I think this would be a good thing to do because this reasons. I'm going to start working on this. If you want to join me, here are the details. Nobody tells anybody that you should be doing this. And if we are not getting that message straight, then probably it's our mistake. Then we should fix that part, if that is how it's coming out. So those are the 2 things I wanted to mention. The third thing that I wanted to mention, probably it will come up again, and I will like discuss on that. Yeah, any thoughts on these things?
Anyone has a thought about this? I probably will go at the end.
You said the structure is supposed to be people taking up work and inviting others. Yeah, that is what we all planned, right? But that is exactly what's not happening also. So maybe if we have some examples, people will automatically start stepping up like that. So for example, if Divik was trying to start the operation infrastructure group, so if he had more activity going on in that group, or if the communities group, if one of the groups actually kicked off, others could imitate them and succeed. Maybe we just need role models.
Well, I hear you. I understand what you're trying to say, and that probably is a good idea. Like mentoring or working close with at least one role model functional team, and then make that as the example for others to follow suit. if they want to practice the same. Okay.
Just one point to add slash enhance. Not really a new one. Um, kind of both what Akshay and Deb said, that what the plan was in terms of the restructure was also to give a sort of template or boilerplate to build new teams on, or to have some presets that you could then use as a template and customize and form a team, which could either be how your onboarding instructions could be, how you would reach out to people, just as in at the meta level. Now, I think there's two things there that has happened. Firstly, since we did not manage to get the meetings and the rest of the work going ahead, we did not spin up any of those, with the possible exception of the open book, where we had some Akshay, me, we had worked together, but we still did not manage to get a lot of attention on that effort. The second part is there is, and this is something that is not my personal view, it is something that I have heard people talking again and again. I tried talking to different people individually and also looking at the threads, that people were writing, is that there is a clearly big gap in the perception of what we tried to explain to people as the meta team's role in the restructure, and what is perceived as the meta team's role in the restructure. Just to highlight that, the part where Akshay said that we expected people to be very excited, start doing their things, is not how it happened. Possibly because, and this is what came up in a lot of conversation, that people are waiting for some kind of a go ahead or some finalization that, hey, this is your new structure. Let's say at this point it's RFC. So how do we take it from RFC to at least propose it as standard 1.0 and tell people that, hey, these are the things that are going on. We have these set of criteria, and go ahead, start doing your job. And even though we have individually voiced that, often time to time, either on personal conversations or on email threads, what hasn't come out is a concrete instance of that from either the provisional meta team, and of course there has been no meta team yet. So getting to those kind of at least a finalized 1.0 of how the proposal looks like, and at that point not just proposal but also having some templates, some boilerplates, and some tools to play with, so that people could use them and make their version of the teams and whatever they want. Because at the core, what we tried to build was not a rigid structure, but actually a pretty fluid and flexible system where individuals are counted and more empowered. So I think we also need to convey that message. So the messaging there is also important, but we also need to get things out of the door, if you think of it in terms of a product release. That's the part I wanted to add.
I have something to add. I think towards the end of the meetup, when we were forming the functional teams, I think it was quite confusing to people that what is the future of this team, whether this is the actual team which is formed or it is not. So people were like confused what is going to happen, what to the teams which have already formed. So that is why, since we had said that this is not the these are not the final members of the team or not the core members of the team. So that is why I think that can be one of the reasons that why the teams and the groups which we had formed was not didn't kick off actually and were not active. So I think this is very important for us to actually assure that people know that what happened there, what actually we did there, whether those teams whether those are the final members of the team or any what is the process to bring new members in the team. So all those confusions I think is still there, and we need to sort that out. So yeah.
Great. I think I have tried to take some notes. I'm not very good at that. But we're hearing a lot of things here, and I also see Ankit's comment below, where he says that some of the community members think that the provisional meta team is the actual meta team, and it's going to be more of a decision maker for the entire process, and which is not the case. So one thing is we have to probably think for some kind of FAQ, and a lot of people probably haven't read the open book that you guys have created, and that's a great one. I was reading that, and that clarifies a lot of things about the roles for each team. And I think people have to probably take a look at that, and maybe we can simplify that process by creating an FAQ if that helps. And the thing is, the restructuring process should not stop what they're doing at this moment. So everyone is active in their own community, their own local community, and they are doing things. And the restructuring could happen parallelly, and their own contribution to the movement could also happen parallelly. So that should not stop. And there's no official decision maker, because it's a movement, it's a community, and everybody is part of the community. Everybody is same in the community. No one is in a higher position to give any kind of official green signal, and that's something that we probably have to communicate to the entire community a little bit more. Maybe we can start in the same thread sharing these pieces of information. The other thing is, how do we go about restructuring? So last week when I was talking to Kostav, he came up with some of the really useful and valid feedbacks, and he also had a lot of new ideas. One of them was kind of defining the roles of the community, and that's kind of understood probably at this moment, that different communities have different teams have their own roles in the community. And once we have that, we probably can open invitations from community members, so community members can propose, and this could happen in the RFC process, that community members can propose new ideas, how they want to form their community and what they want to do. And that also leads to creating a task list, and a task list with some timeline. It's not written on stone, but some kind of timeline to say that in next 3 months we're aiming to achieve this much. And it could be very practical. That they could be very conservative while planning for that. They don't have to blow it up and then have very ambitious plans, because they're all volunteers, and this is also a new exercise. So people will take some time to get adjusted with the new system. And so that's something that came from him. And if you all have different opinions about it, please share. If you all agree with that proposal, I personally favor that kind of idea.
I have not, I agree in general, but I have seen, I can perceive something that might be a theory, might be the actual case that's happening here. So hear me out. I might be totally wrong, but we are working with the demographics of mostly students, mainly engineering, technical students. And the thing is, we have written a book, and they're supposed to go and read that book. The particular demographics who don't even read their own study material until the last week of exam. Being a student myself, at this point. So I think we are trying to share the message in a format that is not readily consumable for our demographics. We probably should do a better job at how we are trying to share that message. Probably that's it's not the problem with probably it's not the problem with the message, but how we are sharing it. Probably if we can try and do a better job, then it might succeed a bit more.
Plus one for that, maybe we could try something like creating a very comprehensive FAQ, so everyone can read question by question, and then each question will answer some. We can take all the questions that have come up in the mailing list on Discourse. Ankit has shared something. I think Daivik is writing a couple of things, so we can take into consideration for all these questions and answer those questions in that FAQ. And that FAQ would eventually fit into the book, because the book is supposed to evolve over time and expand and become bigger. and kind of be a summary of everything. So I perfectly I completely agree with what Dev said that we need to have something that's easier for consumption for most of the students that are our community members. Yeah.
Right.
Anyone else has any different thoughts about this?
Hey, so entirely agree with what Deb said. Um, but I think it's a combination of both the messaging, as in the content that we put there, and the form that we put it in, because a lot of that has actually been through our individual discussions or really lengthy emails. But the problem is we really haven't documented that. We have done a shoddy job at documenting, which we need to improve, and that has always been the issue. The second part there about the book being there, the idea was almost similar to what Shuvashi said, that uh, the idea was it would be a snapshot and archive of things, not where discussions happen. As in, the book wasn't supposed to be a place of discussions, but over the period, whatever we find as things which we faced as problems or best practices that we identify would go in there, which is why it started with the overall structure. So the book is not really a piece that I would uh, always insist people to write or uh, what to say, as in not have the discussions there, but that keep that as an archival of sorts. So kind of a canonical is the right word to refer to. But in terms of where do we have the discussions, and discussions get lost on mailing lists, so we haven't really touched that part of the infrastructure yet, because it is partly an infrastructure issue. It is also partly an agreement issue, because what let's say what we think, or maybe what I think as a good platform for communication, may not be something that, let's say, you think about it. But I think we have a bigger problem there, that we really don't have a medium which would encapsulate all the forms of discussions that we have. For example, we have this meeting, we are having it on a different system. It will be archived on a different system. And we are having the conversations between us on Telegram. We are having some discussions on mailing lists, some on Discord. So we have too much fragmentation. And what happens in this fragmentation is information gets lost. So we also need to explicitly identify, and not just identify, also follow it as a discipline. And by we, I mean at least the people here on this call, to ensure that if there are these many fragmentations, at least we ensure that our voice reaches these many different platforms. But instead of living with the fragmentation, maybe if we figure out what are at least the basic ways where we can reach out to different people, and this includes also information like, why do we need a meta team, or why do we need a functional team? Why not just go ahead with the age-old area-based communities? So these all information are kind of locked up in our heads and in our mail threads, and I think we need to do a good job at making sure that it reaches outside. Over and out. No, just over, not out.
Just to clarify, my point was not that the book is not doing good job. It's actually a very apt for some certain particular like demographics. What I understand from Shubhashish's blog is that he actually went through that whole thing and it helped him. So I do realize that's actually a pretty good thing to have, and it's like, I'm glad that we have it. That idea worked out brilliantly. But what my suggestion was, that cannot be the only medium. We need to just so that I'm not misunderstood here. And
No, you're not, absolutely not misunderstood. So the reason I elaborated was the exact same thing that you said, that the book is not the only thing that we should say. No, like, we can't claim as the meta team or as the provisional meta team or even as individuals that, hey, there is the book, go and read it. We can't take that kind of an attitude, because we are cutting short a lot of quality conversation. And also, the other important part was the book did not evolve out of a fictional writing. It was a result of at least 2 months worth of processes and thoughts that went through, involving a lot of people, which resulted in the structure proposal that we came up with, which went into that book. So it's an end of the funnel. It's not the beginning of the funnel. We need to get better at shaping up the funnel properly. So, you are muted.
Sorry. Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yes, I mean they both the things could feed into each other. The discussion that are happening, say on the discourse or anywhere else, could finally fit into questions and answers in the FAQ booklets, for example, and that could finally fit into the book, so that the book becomes the repository of all the major outputs and outcomes, where the individual discussions still remain with the in the discussion threads. Completely agree with that. So there are a couple of questions, and I think probably we could take a look at those questions before kind of proceeding ahead. Do you think that's a good idea, or we will do it at the end? Okay.
Let's go to the questions.
Okay, so the first one is from Ankit, and he has asked, the community thinks the provisional meta team is all decision maker, and the new process or structure, how do we plan clear this confusion? I think it is evident now. The meta team was created, the provisional meta team, sorry. The provisional meta team was created to help restructure the community rather than acting as a meta team itself. And some of the some of the provisional meta team members might remain in the actual meta team. Some might not remain, but that's not the final team. And that also answers partly Davik's question, which is, can the reps council members? Sorry, he's suggesting that the reps can become the meta team members, if I correctly understand. I personally think that the meta team should be open to all and not just the reps, because leadership exists in all forms in all different places. We can restrict that to only the reps, or we can restrict that to only people who are there in the community for a long time. As Vinisha was sharing with us before, that she and Prathamesh are new members in the community, and they were also part of the provisional meta team. That means that it's an open place, it's an open platform for everyone to join, and that's my personal view. If you have a different opinion about that, please feel free to share.
No, you're absolutely correct. Like,
So external service I was saying, so yeah, external service.
or I will die. All of us. Wow. I'm sorry, Prathamesh. So there was a huge noise from your end. I don't know what. Okay, so just not to add anything more to Subhash's point, I just want to say that I appreciate him sharing his thoughts and how perfectly correct he is. And that's what we need. That's the information, that's the understanding of how the system is. We need that to propagate to all the community members, and then we have a proper structure. That's what is needed.
Can I just add one thing there? Are you done?
Yeah, over, not out.
So I'll just try to phrase this in 2 sentences. And this is kind of covering what Ankit had mentioned. And I think what Ankit is saying, it's not just his view, or what he's trying to do is also reflect what he's hearing around. So the entire purpose of the meta team is to help other teams, or to help anyone. I at this point, I'd like to refrain from saying just help other teams, to help anyone to essentially do their job. So the part that I'd like to emphasize is help. It's not to start. It's not to shove, or it's not to block. It's not that the meta team is your the license authority, and if you want a bike you go to the license authority, and only after you get a license plate you get to ride the bike. Think of the meta team as someone who would step in and as in case you are driving rashly, would tell you that, dude, there is a better way to drive. Why don't you just try something like this? Otherwise you are causing trouble to the other people on the road. So it's pretty much on a friendly, it's pretty much as an enabling inclusive way of doing things. So it's not a blocker, it's not something which is going to stop you. So on to Davik's question, I think what he was trying to ask is, we have 40 plus reps in India who are representatives already. Why do we need another team to just do the same shit as the reps do? Now, the answer to that, I think, is a bit abstract, because what being a rep for Mozilla essentially means that you are someone who is under an NDA and is considered an official community representative in your area. While that is absolutely true, there is nothing stopping us from creating a group which will just go ahead and help others. It is the same thing that we have been doing as the community all along. We have been helping each other. We have been stepping up into for things which we did not see that they are happening the way we would like them to. So we have been voicing our opinions. But what happened as a result of this is we had a lot of conflicts of opinions as well. And we saw that a lot of individual egos, a lot of problems where what someone is trying to say was not perceived for that exact semantic value. That kind of an issue crept in. And we were not able to address a lot of diversity or a lot of harassment issues straight away in a community, because everyone was their own boss, everyone was an individual. So what I think is the primary benefit of having a team like the Meta team is you have at least a group of people who that you can go to have your issues sorted out, or that these are the people who would help you when there is no one else around. That to me is the core essence of the Meta team, which means, and the name the Meta is that it's not the necessity of the thing, it's the abstraction of the process. It is something that is helping you do your thing better. It is about the process. It is not so much about someone who's blocking you. So the ask there is, if at any point, and that was also one of the reasons why I have been pestering Shubhashish so much, that if at any point the Meta team starts being a blocker, it's not useful anymore. That's the time we either do a reality check or we try to understand that, do we really need this kind of a setup? But I put forward my case that why I think we need. So yeah,
here's the thing. What I just understood in the last 2-3 minutes is that the way we are trying to be overly articulate and very precise, and not be politically incorrect about anything to put a message out, the way you try to be comprehensive, try to complete, make the version complete what you try to explain, that only ends up confusing people. The way Shubhashish explained it, it was shorter, it was much crisper, and it was, even though probably it did not encompass everything, all the information together, it was much easier to consume. That is probably where we're making a bit of a mistake.
If I can, if I can jump in quickly here, I think Deb, I mean that's totally up to community members how they want to communicate, and it's good that some people are writing elaborate things that people like me who are coming new, coming to something like this for the first time understand, because the more you elaborate, the easier it is for a new person to understand, right? Those who already know about things, it's easier for them to follow when things are crisper. Well, that said, it's up to Kaustav or anyone else in the community how they want to share. What we can probably do going, I mean, in the upcoming days is we can have discussions in our end, and maybe share a summary with the community, maybe 5 bullet points at the end. This is something that we discussed, and this is something that we are proposing to you, and all of those points could be actionable, so community members can click on those links, and then that will lead to some page they will land on, and they can share their ideas. So mostly as brief as possible. So this is going to be from the team and not from Kaustav or not from Akshay. So it's going to be from the team, and we can mention about that in the beginning, saying that this note is going from the team collaboratively rather than going from one person. So there is also more. So Kaustav mentioned about this thing with me. I'm not sure if he would mind if I share this publicly, but he shared with me that when he writes something, or anyone else in the community writes something in the mailing list, that is not taken that seriously. And I think that's a really bad thing to happen, because no one is a boss here. No one is taking a decision here. We all are the same, maybe a little more, little less, based on our contribution, but we are more or less the same. And so let's try to break that bridge and try to send our forthcoming announcements, or anything that's more of a decision-making kind of statement from the team, and not just from one person. So when Kaustav is writing, he's writing on behalf of the team, and that's a decision of the entire team and not his own personal opinions. And if this is fine with everyone, I'm 100% fine with that. Yeah. Okay. Akshay and Deb, probably you were muted. And
no, yeah. So the thing is, sometimes you might want to come, like, bring yourself forward to the community as an individual and not part of this provisional meta team or meta team, and that's also absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a flexible thing rather than a fixed thing.
Yeah, it's not a burden that you always have to represent the meta team, and all of your words have. Yeah, so that's the part I need.
Yeah. And I think we can just limit our communications into less words, if that is a problem, if that is causing a problem. I don't know if that is a causing problem. I'm used to reading long emails, so I'm perfectly fine with that, but I'm not the only person in the community who will decide things. But if people are okay with really objective communications, we can push for that. And yeah, I mean, I'm perfectly fine to kind of volunteer for that kind of things, to writing down things, to document things. I can speak to you one-on-one and then share that as a draft with you, and then you can approve, and then I can go ahead and post it on the team's behalf. I can do all of those things if you want me to do that. So
Shubhashish, it was not about the length part of things. It was
I
about
mean,
the terms that we're using.
Yeah,
we are okay with those terms.
Yeah,
the vocabulary that we're using, we are okay with those things, and probably among ourselves we would like to be completely comprehensive and permeate the message as much as possible, but some of those words are very new and that sends people off.
Fine.
And they don't like it. They want a simpler.
Fine. It's an open community, so I mean, they get to decide what they want to see, and so I can take that job for documenting things and then sharing that with the community with your approval, of course. So if you're okay with that, I mean, I could do that on the team's behalf.
What are you talking about? Like which kind of approval?
Like anything that we share with the community, going forward.
Being the spokesperson of the
Not really spokesperson. I really don't like the political terms like that. I mean, more or less somebody who can take notes and summarize everything, share with you all, and once you all approve, I'll share it with the larger community.
That works for me fine.
And then, in addition to that, if you have other opinions, if you have additional opinions to add to that, jump in and then share that as well. I mean, this is just one suggestion. This is not something that this is something I'm proposing, that if you're fine with that, we can go ahead with that. Otherwise, we can go ahead with the old way of sharing from individual emails and stuff like that.
No, I think that's a great idea.
Prathamesh, you might want
to. Yeah.
Okay, Prathamesh, you might want to jump in quickly and then share a little bit. I mean, introduce yourself and also share a little bit about your learning in the last 6 months exercise, because you shared a lot of things with me in Bangalore. Maybe you want to share those things with the larger community. And we're going live, by the way. Okay, Prathamesh has microphone issues. Fine. So do you one of you want to go to the next step, which is how do you start? What would be the process of kind of restructuring, and how do you go about it? Maybe your idea about it.
Why don't you share what you had?
No, I think it makes more sense if you guys share, and then I'll come at the end.
Anyone but me.
I was actually searching for the 3 action items that the professional meta team actually had. I think one of them was help form other teams. So we could think about how we can help other teams form. Or no. I think one of the Can anyone find out what the action items were?
I don't have access. I'm from mobile. Sorry, I don't have access to that data right at the moment. Sorry.
Too many windows. I'll take some time.
Can you tell me where exactly that was documented? Maybe I could search. Or
that's the problem.
Okay. Do you guys at least remember?
What supposed to do?
I'm fairly certain it was one of the Etherpads. What? Now Etherpads are not really very indexed or something.
So what was it, to create these 3 teams and then kind of list out action items for them?
I think one of the goals. Or was it about forming the meta team first? It was about forming the meta team, right?
It was forming the meta team first, and
That
then
sounds
it was
logical.
then it was helping out the other teams to form, and we had a rough guideline about which ones will be the other teams, at least to start with. And the third one probably was figuring out, if I'm not mistaken, that how the risk leader, if complaints handling or something of that sort.
Grievance and transition.
Yes, probably. Yes, that's
okay.
I think the reason we don't remember what it is, we had written it live on the sheets, as in the slides which George was sharing at that point.
No, that's okay. Don't worry about that. I think you all shared pretty much everything. That the meta team has to be formed, and the provisional meta team has to work on that. And then once the meta team is formed, then we will start working on creating the other teams. And so why don't you share about the idea that you shared with me about opening up the process, you making it RFC so everyone can join, start proposing ideas what they want to do as part of their provisional team.
Yeah. So what clearly did not work out was that we're trying to get on the same table at the same time and sort things out. And Akshay and I have been kind of shouting our heads over that we need a more asynchronous process. And what I mean by the asynchronous process is where we don't take decisions on live meetings, but we have a workflow, and we tried to do that on GitHub. We have a repository there. The idea was people could file complaints as issues there, or that's more like the dynamic area. And if we had decisions, that would come in as documents in that repository, following an RFC style setup. The reason of doing we wanted to do this was that this would ensure a lot of broader participation and won't keep it limited only to a few set of people on a call, because what is exactly happening here is a lot of people are talking and a lot of other people are only listening. At the best, they are passive participants, but we are exchanging a lot of ideas here, which would be better, at least for me, if I say if I had half an hour of time and I would have just jotted them down somewhere. So my entire idea was around making the process asynchronous, so that we don't need to get on meetings to constantly discuss new ideas, where meetings could be more of arbitrations. Let's say we are stuck on something and we want to get on a call and to quickly have a more delightful discussion, so to say, and we so that we don't have to bring up all the issues before. The second part of it was making it open, and that's the more important part to me, because um, I think what's happening right here in this call is a limitation of perspectives. We have got a limited number of perspectives. Even if we have been in the community for 1 year, 2 year, 3 years or more, we are still voicing what we think is right. And I think a lot of perspectives which are very useful to the rest of the community, or as you said, the rest of the movement, is missing. So I think we need to make a process where we can ensure as much participation as possible. And to me, that means opening up the meta team to essentially anyone who's willing to be a part of it. But having a process so that we know that this is the way that people participate. If you want to voice some concern, or if you want to help someone out, or if you want to uh, do propose a change in the process, this is where you do it. So there are two sides to it. Once again, one is having a workflow, preferably which is not a live call, where people can participate in the process. That is more the process side of things. And the second is opening it up, ensuring that you get as much point of view as possible. And the place where I think it was initially Deb's idea to get that as a repository form, and we have been using that in other places as well, and that has worked out brilliantly, is that you use the GitHub issues as a form of conversation. So if anyone has a question, they can, as in question related to that specific area, they log those questions, and and I think the bigger part is we can figure out the process eventually, but it's more about, are we willing to go that route? Yeah, so you had a question.
Yes, I want to quickly ask you about the GitHub. Is everyone comfortable with GitHub in the community, or the large segment of the community is comfortable with GitHub?
Yeah, this is something I actually wanted to add to what Kostav said. I feel, yeah, there is everything is in place, but I feel like people who do not use GitHub, they feel that who they feel hard, like if you consider me, I am belong to a non-tech background, so people like me, I think we feel a little uncomfortable using GitHub as the primary source, and this becomes like very complicated for us to it doesn't come handy in if you take my perspective. So I feel that can be one of the, so now since I have started since I work closely with the group, I have been using it. But people who are new to the community, people who do not know what GitHub is, or I think they might feel that is very hard to use.
Also, every tool has that problem. For example, Hangouts might not be okay when you're not in a fully connected place with 4G connection, or Telegram might not be okay if you use WhatsApp only. Or email might not be okay if you have a lot of spam in your inbox. So every tool will have that problem also.
So here is something I want to propose, and I don't know if that will be a really solution to this, but how about we keep this process open on two platforms? One is GitHub, so everybody who's comfortable with GitHub can share or propose ideas on GitHub. Those who are not comfortable with GitHub, are they comfortable with Wiki? Is Wiki a solution?
We did not have success with Wiki either. And
Okay.
just to add a little point here. So I think finding out one best solution is never going to work out. Like and never, I use sparingly. I don't use that term often, but I think it's not going to work out.
No, this is Deb, sorry. Just want to interrupt and say this. There are some people that might not want to learn GitHub at this point, and it's fine if they choose to do that. Maybe it's because they're busy in their life doing other things, and at this point of time, they might not just want to learn GitHub just to make a statement or share something. So maybe how about we open up a simple form that captures everything in a spreadsheet that we can view from the backend. And then if they want to be anonymous, they can choose to be anonymous. If they want to share their names, we can do that. We can create, we can probably create I don't know, a separate account, or just log in and from our accounts, and then file an issue on GitHub and add on the top of that saying that this was actually filed by this person, or it was filed anonymously. Will that be okay with you all?
The thing is, I was actually going to suggest something very similar to this.
Okay.
That's when so thing is, I think that is one other solution we can have. People might want to use Etherpad or Wiki or Google Docs or Google Forms or GitHub in itself, as long as we have the wiring or rigging in place, where rigging is in the sense not how it's used usually is wiring or having the systems connected together. As long as we are funneling them all to GitHub at the end of the day, having that as the canonical medium, so then it should work out. We are not forcing anybody to use GitHub as a tool.
Absolutely.
But that's the best medium for us to work with. That was my suggestion.
Yeah, I agree with that. Any of you have any different opinions about that?
Also, if you are actually working on something, people will jump across all the barriers and start contributing.
Yes, that's true. But some people might not just want to use GitHub at this point of time. So let's keep some process open for them to share. And some people might just want to share anonymously, which is fine. We should welcome more as many ideas as possible. And the platform should not be a bottleneck for the process. So we need more participation, and Kosov rightly pointed out, we're lacking participation from the larger community. So, and this might be a barrier. We don't know about that. This might be a barrier, and if this is a barrier, then let's try to have a solution around it, and let's keep it open for more people. Let's use and one of us has to kind of copy those things from the Google spreadsheet to GitHub, which is perfectly fine. As long as we're getting more ideas, it's perfectly fine to take that extra pen, and I can volunteer to do that.
I have a suggestion. Can we do like this? Like, if we can, tell how to, reach that place. Like, there is already the repository in GitHub, but if we can, write the step-by-step thing so that it becomes easy for people, how do they have to reach there? I know it is like it is easy for us, but I feel that if we have this step-by-step thing in place, maybe a kind of a document saying that how to how to reach there. I mean, instead of doing that double work again, and because it will right now it will look easy, but over the period of time, I feel that it will again be a complicated process, like copying from here to there, and then if there is no update, then. So it is again confusing. Why not to have, wherever it is, let it be there. Let's add a step-by-step thing wherein people can, just use that and simply go and find out where the resource is. If that sounds okay.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Kind of agree to Nisha that probably it might not scale well if we make it manual. So I'll look into the prospect of how do we automate that process, like getting that Google Form data and putting it directly on GitHub as individual GitHub issues for each one of them. That sounds possible. It seems possible.
There are 3 bots in the team. We can add another anytime.
Yeah. And the second part is also the discoverability issue that Nisha mentioned, that finding out where to go and what all points to mention for your complaints or what issue that you're trying to fill is complete. The kind of template, probably we also need to look into that. If that summarizes what Vanisha tried to say.
There are already documentations about GitHub for sure. It's just that this particular thing and creating another document for that might be useful. I'm not disagreeing with that, but maybe the other solution will solve that problem, and we won't be stuck with that.
Yes, and I think the important part there is what Deb said, is as long as it funnels down to one credible source, doesn't matter how many inputs we have, as long as we have the integrations in place, that these things come up and either are archived or documented, or also have an interaction in certain of the spheres, then I think that's a pretty feasible option.
So you asked me to share what I wanted to share in the beginning. If everyone has shared, I think Prathamesh and Akshay want to share anything else. Do you have anything more to share?
No, I just want to start working.
Okay. Prathamesh, do you have anything to share? Maybe by typing. You can type and we could read it out. Let's start the good work. Okay. So here's something I want to share with you guys, and let me know what you feel about it. That we jot down a couple of action items and then share that with the community. And this is again reflecting what Kosa was saying, that we don't take decisions on the calls. Calls are for fun, and the decisions are actually taken in the background. And we share a couple of action items with the community, and that this is something that we are planning to do in the next month. Very something that you all can manage with your existing personal I mean work and everything. So it doesn't need to be very fancy, very ambitious, but something that's actionable, and we share that with the community. And that's towards restructuring the community, and we open up the processes like the forums or GitHub pages, all of those things for the community to participate, and we share the information with them in an open manner. And then so how long we should keep the community to come back and then share their ideas? Is it 2 weeks is feasible? 1 week? I don't know what should be the right time we should keep this process open for. Any thoughts on that?
I don't think there needs to be a time frame of like limited time frame. This is if we end up setting this entire thing up, that means in the entire process, the entire structure was supposed to be constantly evolving.
Sure.
In that case, we can keep this open, but we can say that for this particular time frame or particular goals to like for us to reach that goal, we are looking at this time frame. So all the suggestions you need to make that you think should go into this thing, probably that should be before this timeline. But infrastructure will or should actually stay for further evolution.
Okay. Well, I partially agree with that. And the reason I agree with that is because I think it should be work in progress rather than short duration. But if you have any different opinions, guys.
Hey, so just one addition there. I think both are correct in the sense that it has to be an open process, but at least to get the first version out, to at least feel that it's happening, it's working, have a tangible thing initially, is where we probably need a timeline. Just what I'm talking of is a similar timeline that we had set for the provisional meta team as of October 31st. It was not that that was the end of everything. It was just that is where we started and at least got the first iteration out. That's the kind of thing I'm talking of now. That brings me to an important question about availability, because one of the issues that I had was probably we need to reevaluate and also find people who can contribute to the process and be a part of it. So, sorry, did I go overboard there? I guess not. Yeah, I'm
Also,
done.
even if we wait for 1 week, there is no guarantee that there will be contributions coming in. Especially just because there's an open process. If you take a look at the participation GitHub or reps GitHub, a lot of issues are filed by the person and finished by the same person. Nobody else gets involved unless the issues are very interesting, of course.
Yeah, we need a star marker on that. 1-star issues, 5-star issues and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point that Akshay has shared, that just because the process is open doesn't mean that a lot of people will jump in and share. Maybe something that's time bound will go with a lot of messages that we will be pinging people, asking them, hey, this is ending in a couple of days. Maybe you want to share something as soon as possible. So that kind of creates that feeling that this is ending very soon and I have to share before it ends. And that probably will make some more people join. But yes, as you said, this is not going to be end of that. This is going to be just the beginning, and then we will continue to have more ideas. There will be more functional teams that will form. So all of that will happen. So maybe in a week's time we can share. Maybe in a couple of days we can share something with the community that we discussed about these things, and we want to go this way. If you have different opinions, please share. Will that be okay with you guys?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Everything that we discussed, just a quick summary of that, and then the action items.
Right.
Cool. Okay, we have taken 11 more minutes, but if you have anything burning, please share before you close.
I just want to point out one thing that we have not touched, but it's kind of a blocker. And I did want to mention that publicly and while we are broadcasted. This thing is, we have been trying a long time to secure ourselves the infrastructure, the technical part of things from Mozilla, and it's taking a long time. We need to get that thing done as soon as possible, and I would seek your help.
Sorry, come again. I completely lost.
So Mozilla provides community infrastructure.
Yes.
So if a community needs VM or like a blog to host, so we have a lot of toolings to do. Like as you understand that what we're trying to do, there will be lots of toolings, creating bots, creating bridges and stuff. So
yes.
we would need that infrastructure. That request is pending for like almost 3 years. We have something already in place, but it's so broken, or backdated, that we cannot actually proceed with that, and nothing new can actually go into that. It might break. So we need to secure new infrastructure. That request also is about more than 3 years old, and we are having trouble getting that done. So I want to move to that, getting that part done, so that everybody who wants to do something, they have their own playground to do it. That was the intention. And I would need your help to actually secure that infrastructure. As much
sure.
It should be trouble. It shouldn't be trouble for you if you're worried. It's just that it needs
no.
amount of communication with that team that handles this.
Yeah. Drop me an email, and if you can, probably send me anything that you communicated with the team here, and it was stuck in some point of time. So for me to get some context, send me those emails, and I will send that. I mean, I will write an email on your behalf, and then connect with whoever is the right person. I can do that for sure. Yeah.
I'll
drop me an email. Yeah.
I'll gather all the details and get you connected with.
Sure, that will be great. Thank you.
So are we done? And what is the action?
From my side, yes, everything is good so far. Looks like a very positive meeting.
So the action items, can you just summarize once? What's next?
First is we will have a time frame, and that we all have to decide and then agree on. And then that's one thing that in this will be the time frame for the restructure. Second thing would be clarifying some of the notions that people have in the community. So that's one thing. Yeah, I think that's all.
And how do we do that? Do we decide on that later on?
No, the process. I mean, the first point about what we're going to do has the process as well. That we are going to create the Git, and the and everything will be explained there. People can propose ideas there on the Git, or they can propose ideas in using the form, and then everything will be captured, and the Git would be the final repository for everything, and that will lead towards creating the functional, I mean, all the teams, and then they'll start working.
Sounds good.
Did I miss anything else?
No.
Okay, great. Cool. Thank you everyone for joining in and sharing so much, and also sparing your evening time, and enjoy the rest of the day. And everybody who watched us, I hope we didn't bore you so much, and there was something to take from this meeting. Yeah, you guys want to say bye to everyone? Probably.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for your time.
Thank you everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.
Sir.